Hi, everyone. Welcome to the fourth episode of Mini Clinics with Mitch. My name is Mitch Braley. I'm a member of Racquetball Canada's National Development Team, coming to you from my basement on behalf of Racquetball Canada. We've talked about footwork and we've talked about speed, agility, and quickness. And this week's subject is something that ties in really well with those, and that is leg strength. In my opinion, legs are the most important muscle group involved in racquetball. The argument can be made for your core, for your back, but legs are what give you explosive speed. They give you explosive power into the ball, and oftentimes, if they're not conditioned properly, that's going to be the first things that start to go on you during a long match. And if you have tired legs, then your level of play is going to drop drastically. And especially from the early rounds of a tournament until the later rounds, the semifinals, the finals, it's oftentimes I find players are complaining about sore legs or tired legs, and you don't want to be going into a match already feeling sore and having one of the most important muscle groups that's working for you, working against you, so to speak. So we're going to look at ways that you can condition them at home with no equipment, which is more than possible. So without further ado, let's get started. So like I said, this is my opinion, and I absolutely understand that racquetball is a full body sport. So there's very few parts of your body that you're not using during a match or even during practice. But I really believe that your legs are the primary driving force behind most of what's going on in the racquetball court. And having strong legs, it gives you faster, more explosive movement, and that, like we talked about in speed and agility and quickness, is something that everybody wants. They want to be a faster player, so it ties in really well with that. This gives the ability to stay in a low athletic stance during rallies, which is super important. And you're also getting more power generation from your swing. And a misconception that a lot of newer players have, or players that aren't familiar with racket sports in general, think that power oftentimes comes from having big arms, biceps, triceps, and thank God for me, it doesn't, because legs are where you get a lot of your power from, your legs and your hips. And having stronger legs is going to help you put a little bit more pop on the ball. And we talked about fatigue already. So nobody wants to be going into a match with tired legs or sore legs, and having strong legs as you get into quarterfinals and semifinals and finals just allows you to be a little bit more confident going into matches, knowing that you feel great and you feel fresh and you know that you can play an entire match at 110%, knowing that you don't have to worry about conserving energy in your legs and having them get tired. And it also helps reduce the chance of injury as well. Much as we've talked about, having proper footwork is going to do that for you, so is having stronger legs in terms of reducing injuries, especially in knees and some of the joints, just by having stronger muscles around them. And the beauty of all of this is that it requires zero equipment whatsoever in order to properly condition your legs for racquetball. You don't need squatting racks or barbells or heavy weights in order to do so. So there's no reason that your legs can't be tournament ready despite gyms being closed. Everything we're going to look at in this video can all be done at home with no equipment. And I think it's important to make the distinction that we're not trying to become Olympic powerlifters, for example. They have a very different demand on their legs than we have being racquetball players. So if you can do a 700 pound squat, good for you, great. Is that going to allow your legs to endure an entire weekend or an entire week of grueling matches? Probably not. There's different ways to train for it. There's different ways to train the endurance and the strength, and we're going to look at all of those in the next few minutes here. Now, there's a lot of exercise I want to get into, so we're going to start to dive in right away. But before we do, I want to make a couple of really quick notes. Number one being that I don't have any sort of formal education in kinesiology. I'm not a certified personal trainer, so I'm not going to dive too much into specifics and the technique of the exercises I'm showing you. It's more so just to give you a general idea of what they are and what you can start to implement into your training. So if you do want to start to look into that or make sure your form is as close to perfect as possible, you'll have to either look online and do your own research or contact a personal trainer you already have in your network. Number two is I did have a couple procedures done on my legs about a couple of months ago that prevented me from being able to exercise for that period of time. So these videos that I filmed are the first time I've been able to engage in some of these exercises in roughly 7 or 8 weeks. So my form might not be perfect or bang on, but hopefully it still gives you an idea of what we're trying to accomplish. That all being said, first up we have air squats or bodyweight squats. So you can see, very simple. I have my arms extended out in front of me and just going through with the basic squatting motion. You can see I'm getting a little bit lower than parallel here, and my legs, or my feet rather, are just over shoulder width apart. A little bit more challenging are the prisoner squats. That's where you can see my hands are clasped behind my head, so my arms are behind my back rather than out in front of me. And this just makes it a little bit more difficult to maintain your balance without falling forward or backwards. So it's going to engage those muscles you're already using in the squat a little bit more and makes it a little bit tougher. And then next up is more sort of a plyometric exercise, the jumping squats. You can see I'm getting low into what I would normally be doing with a regular squat in that seated position. And then after that, I'm exploding up and bringing my knees up as high as I can. I do have a fairly short ceiling here, so I'm not able to get as high as I would if I was outside or on a court. But the idea is to explode upwards and then land as softly as I can on the ground. If I'm landing straight-legged or slamming into the ground, it's going to be very hard on my feet, my heels, my knees, which you don't want. So if you're fairly new to leg exercises or haven't worked out in a while or just getting into this, then this is probably one that you want to leave out for now until you build up a little bit more leg strength and get familiar with some of the technique of a simpler motion like the prisoner squat or the bodyweight squat. So I think a lot of people are familiar with squats, and another one here that a lot of people are familiar with is lunges and some variations of them. So the first one we have, very simple, similar to the bodyweight squat, is the stationary lunge or the bodyweight lunge. So general idea here is I'm bringing that back leg down so that it's going to be parallel with the floor at my lowest point with a 90-degree angle formed behind my knee. I'm coming straight down, as you can see. I'm not leaning too far forward. I'm not leaning over that front knee, which is very important. A really good way to injure your knee is to lean forward on it. I'm also not leaning back, so my weight is very center. Next up after that is the stepping lunge. So again, very simple motion, and it just engages a few different muscle groups as you have to make sure you're maintaining your balance, especially as you're coming backwards out of the lunge. And this one here, again, doing it for repeated reps can also be a good way to work your cardio as well. You can see again, keeping that weight balanced. I'm not leaning too far forward over that front knee. That back leg gets parallel to the ground, and I'm forming that 90-degree angle behind my back knee. And more of a plyometric exercise again is jumping lunges. You can see I'm starting in a lunge position, I'm jumping, and in the air I'm switching legs and then immediately landing in a lunge position. This one, again, very important to have your form and your technique down from more simpler exercises like the stepping lunge or the stationary lunge, just so that when you're landing, you're not leaning too far over, you're not falling over, and you're not putting too much strain on your knees. So not one I'd recommend starting with, but certainly once you're more confident in your basic lunges, then definitely add this one into the mix. Terrific way to work your cardio as well as your legs. This here, I'm going to demonstrate a variation of the squat and then also a variation of the lunge. So we have the side squat and the side lunge. And I think these are terrific. Again, in racquetball, there's a lot of times where you are pushing off one leg or having to explode to one side or the other. So these are very challenging, especially the side lunges. I find it's a muscle that doesn't often get worked through a lot of other exercises. So 100% one that you're going to want to incorporate, and body weight's great, especially for that side lunge again, because it's just not something we do a ton of, and you're going to find that it's plenty difficult without adding any weight to it initially. So what I mentioned earlier that I hadn't been able to work out for a couple of months and my former technique may have suffered, this was the exercise I was thinking of especially, and that's the pistol squat. Very challenging, does not require any weight at all to be super, super difficult. As you can see, it serves to isolate one single leg that's going to do all of the work in terms of bringing down almost all my body weight and then pressing it back up again. I have my arms and then one leg out in front of me for balance. And this is probably one exercise you're only going to be able to do one or two of at the start. Technique is critical here. So make sure that you can get that down. You're coming down slowly and then you're pressing yourself back up, but it builds tremendous leg strength without any weight whatsoever. But if you do get really good at it and you want to add a little bit, that is of course an option, but you really don't need any. If you're able to bang out 10 of these in a row without too much issue, you're going to have some pretty well-conditioned legs. This is a bit of a change of pace here. I call it the half bridge. I'm sure there's a number of different names for it, but show you the simple form of it and then the variation with the one leg. But as you can see, I'm lying flat on the ground. I have my legs bent, and whether I'm doing it with one leg or the two legs here, The idea is I'm thrusting upward and squeezing at that top point, squeezing with the glutes and really feeling that burn there. That's what we're looking to target. It's quite challenging by itself with both legs, but then if you want to raise one leg into the air, again, camera angle wasn't great and wasn't able to capture it, but I have the leg that's up above the ground fairly straight, a little bit of a bend to it, but it's fairly straight up, and I'm lifting that straight forward towards the ceiling. Really simple one to target the hamstrings here. I call them skaters. I've seen 4 or 5 different exercises out there throughout the years that are called skaters that aren't this. So this is just the terminology that I'm using, but very simple as you can see. Sorry, despite the poor camera angle, but I'm extending both my arms outward in front of me, along with one leg backwards, trying to form a straight line, getting my back as flat as possible. And this is going to target the hamstrings and the back of the leg on the for the leg that remains planted on the ground. Very simple, but very effective. Groiners are a unique one here. I tend to think of them more as a core exercise in a lot of ways because you are holding that plank position here, as you can see, but I have seen a lot of places online where they're considered a leg exercise, and they do work your hamstrings in the back of your leg. So yeah, by all means, there are two birds, one stone. But you can see that the first variation is I'm bringing up one leg at a time to come line up with my palm or where my hand is on the outside of it, and then getting back to that plank position. And then next, I'm exploding forward with both feet and then getting back into that plank position, my feet being on the outside of my palms. And this is also a great way to work your cardio too. So you get cardio, you get core, and you get legs. It's a really challenging exercise that I've really started to enjoy in this past year or so. And of course, we want to make sure that we don't leave out our calves or the front of our legs, our shins. So very simple here. First is the calf raise, I like to do it on stairs to get a little bit more extension. Not much to explain there, very simple. A lot of people are familiar with calf raises already, but one that I think is neglected a little bit more is the front of the leg and the shin. So toe raises are a great way to target that. I was watching a couple of videos on some NFL wide receiver training and conditioning routines, and they talked about the importance of strengthening your entire leg and how even having your shins and that front of your leg strong is super beneficial too. And toe raises are a great way to do that. Very simple. And you'll start to feel that burn within a couple dozen reps or so. So really good one to throw in. And the last one here is the wall sit. I think a lot of us are familiar, but general idea is I want my back flat against the wall here. I'm forming a nice 90-degree angle behind my knee with my calf, lower leg, shin, and then my upper leg. And I'm just holding that position. Could be for 20 seconds or 30 seconds or as long as I want. I'm going to talk about a few different ways to structure a couple of these exercises into a bit of a routine, if you will, in a couple of moments. And as you can see here, I'm waving at the camera just so that you know I didn't take a still shot, and I am in fact holding the position for 10, 15 seconds or so. So those are the exercises I wanted to share with you today. I'm sure you're familiar with most of them. Some of you are already probably doing them already. If you're not, and you're looking for ways to start incorporating them into your daily life, a couple ideas that I like. Number one is using the HIIT structure, high intensity interval training. It allows for really challenging workouts in short amounts of time. And in today's day and age where we're super busy and don't have a ton of free time, it's a great way to get challenging workouts in that are very effective in a short amount of time. So whether it's 15 minutes, 10 minutes, even 5 minutes. There's a ton of research out there that shows that it increases oxygen and blood flow. And what I really like too is a lot of the cycles you'll find nicely simulates the flow of a racquetball game. One of them that I do a lot is the Tabata. And basically that's 20 seconds of an exercise going almost 100%. And then you have a 10-second rest period. And that is one set. And you do that for 8 sets. So it lasts for a total of 3 minutes and 50 seconds. And if you can make it through difficult Tabatas, with hard cardio exercises, full body exercises, like even like burpees or some tough squats, the jumping lunges that we looked at, something involving your legs, then it's going to be really hard to get fatigued during a match. And I think it's perfect because the 10 seconds of rest time is what you get in a racquetball game as per the rules, unless of course it's a pro game where the towel timeouts last for 25, 30 seconds, and for some reason the 10 seconds isn't enforced. Another way to structure things that I really like is using circuits. So I just chose some random exercises that we looked at today here. So basically what would happen is I would do prisoner squats, I would do 12 reps, immediately followed by stepping lunges, 12 reps per leg, and then followed by side lunges, followed by skaters, followed by groiners. Minimal rest in between, if not any. So basically I would just go one to the next with zero rest time. And this is a terrific way to work my cardio as well. I'm going to go through all the exercises, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can choose as many or as little as you like. And then once I finish them, I'm going to take a quick breather, grab some water, and then I'm going to go right back to the beginning and do the entire cycle again. I like the number 3. It's just a nice number to do 3 cycles of it or 3 circuits, but do as many as you like, choose as many exercises you like. It's very flexible and just a really easy, simple way to structure a really quick routine. Before I get into a recap for today, just a couple of important notes now that we've looked at everything. If you are feeling any pain that isn't just the normal burn of a strenuous exercise, stop immediately. You don't want to hurt yourself. Knee pain in particular is important to watch for. It's typically a result of improper form. Maybe you already have an existing injury that you're watching out for. So if that's the case, stop. Have a look at your form, film yourself, have a look if you're knowledgeable enough to analyze it yourself. If not, have somebody that knows a little bit more, such as a personal trainer, have a look for you and make sure you get that form correct and dead on before you're doing too many reps or adding weight or making things too difficult. And always be sure you're warming up properly, eating well, and hydrating if you're engaging in any form of exercise. Now, for a brief recap, well-conditioned legs are extraordinarily important in racquetball. It's just going to help improve your level of play. It's going to help your level of play not drop during tournaments and during long matches. And it's just going to help your body feel fresher as tournaments progress. You can condition your legs for racquetball with zero equipment, all at home. Start with the simpler exercises, and then once you're able to do those properly and become comfortable and confident in your form, then you can start incorporating some of the more difficult ones, such as the pistol squats or the jumping lunges. And high intensity interval training and circuits are great if you're limited for time and just want to sneak a quick workout in for 15-20 minutes in the morning or in the middle of your day or in the evening at some point. And I'd highly recommend finding ways to try both of them out. But that's all I have for today. I was hoping to keep this video a bit shorter than the other ones. If I had a blooper reel, this would probably be over 3 hours long. I'm not going to include those. Of course, my name is Mitch Braley. On behalf of Racquetball Canada, thanks so much for checking in. Take care, stay safe, and we'll see you next week.